and welcome to Mandobug Crafts episode 106. This is my crafty channel here on YouTube where I record videos about the things that I'm making, and this is the almost 2-year catch-up episode. Yeah. So starting the shot with something I've learned. So this is not really anything that requires a lot of concentration to learn, but I have, thanks to friends, picked up the hobby of diamond painting. So I don't know if you guys have seen this. It was new to me, not as new anymore, but there are these diamond paintings that you can do that are, it's like a mix between cross stitch and paint by colors. So you get a canvas and it's got a cross stitch looking chart with some sort of adhesive on it, and then you get these little resin diamonds and they come with codes, which I think on this one, let me see if I can get close enough here. They're actually DMC floss color coded. So you can do, like, you can get blank canvases and follow your own cross stitch patterns on the blank canvases by ordering the DMC colored drills, is what they also call the diamonds, if you want. But this was the very first one that I ever did, and it was a super cheap kit off of Amazon. So I'll link everything in the show notes below in the description box as usual, and then you can go ahead and follow along the links to check out more information about this stuff. I'm not an Amazon affiliate, just to throw that out there. But these kits were a 6-pack for I think like $18.99, so they ended up only being $3 a kit, which is a ridiculously reasonable price. They're not the best quality, I've now learned, but it was great for me starting out because it wasn't something I was sure if I'd like or get into. And if you don't know anything about diamond painting and you're interested in giving it a try, I will recommend Mrs. Crochet and Coffee's YouTube channel. That's what was recommended to me, and she has a really great playlist of, I think she calls it her diamond painting toolkit, and it's got, I mean, every question I could think of was answered in one of those videos. So if you want to learn more, I recommend checking out her channel. But real quick, while we're still talking about diamond painting, I was going to show you, I went on to then do this painting, which was also in that same Amazon 6-pack. I think I have one more left. I ended up gifting the other 3 canvases to friends and family that I thought would enjoy them, but it's been a blast. If you look up super close though, let's see, ooh, sparkly. If you look up super duper close, maybe, oh, I'm getting a shadow. One of the things that makes this canvas a less quality canvas is that the drills don't really fit in their squares. These are round drills, and they're just a little bit too big for the square that's allotted on the canvas, so some of them pop off. But I'm going to be sealing these with some Hodge Podge so that I don't have to worry about the diamonds falling out, and I can continue to have them be hung in the house. I guess I have another something I've learned, but before I jump into that, I'm going to share, because I'm really excited about this one. This is my 3rd canvas, and I'm almost done. It's rolling here at the bottom, but this is a canvas I've been doing for an Instagram diamond painting along called Drills and Chills 2020, and it's just kind of do a Halloween spooky autumnal painting during the beginning of September through the end of October, and you'll get entered to win. I think they have a couple different prizes. I don't know. I'm just doing it for fun and to meet other diamond painters on Instagram. But I got this fun Halloween canvas also off of Amazon. So to show you the price shift, this one was $9.99 compared to the ones that were only $3. But it's been a much better canvas to work on. And so, ooh, I can show you right here. If you've never seen, this is what the drill field looks like. There's, let's see if we can get up really close. There's plastic on it because it's sticky, and that's what keeps the adhesive clean. But you can see the letters, and it's really easy and clear to see what they are, whereas on my other canvases it wasn't as clear to see. I did film an unboxing for this, and I have filmed kind of me working on it and talking about what I do and don't like about this canvas. And I do plan on having a video up on that when I finished it for kind of a full review. But yeah, so that's something I've learned lately, pretty recently, I want to say within the past couple of weeks. The other something I've learned, oh my goodness, I left it in the living room, so I'm gonna have to go get it, but it has to do with a woolly fur order that I took over a year ago, and I'm still working on it. And I still have probably another 6 months to go. So these guys, I have been working on this order for a lot longer than I anticipated to be. There's several reasons why, but the biggest thing that I learned, if you're going to do a spinning commission for someone, specifically a dog fur spinning commission, it should probably be a priority to ask them how much dog fur they're actually going to be sending you. Generally, people don't collect that much, so it's not something I was asking. I'd get a small bag about this big. It'd make 1 or 2 hanks. People would spend years collecting fur to send it off to somebody like me to spin it for them. This gal had a dog of a completely different breed, and I do remember in our conversation for the, what do you call, a custom listing on Etsy, she mentioned, like, what's the turnaround time on your yarn? And I'm like, yeah, about 2 weeks usually, because that's about the size of the orders I was receiving. But she never did mention how much she was sending me. She did send me off a small portion to sample spin it and send it back to her before she fully went through with the order. But I remember the day that it arrived, the box was this big on my front porch. It cost her like $70-something to ship the fur to me because of how massive the box is. And I never fully weighed it all together, but at this point I'm estimating that she sent me somewhere between 2 and 3 pounds of dog fur. And I mix all of my woolly fur orders with 50% merino. So that is roughly 4 to 6 pounds of an order. I never even spun that much for myself, especially not of one color or even a fleece. So this was definitely a huge undertaking, which I probably would have reconsidered had I known that's how much she was ordering from me. So that is something I've definitely learned and like to share with you if you ever find yourself in a position where you want to offer commission spinning specifically with dog fur. Find out how much they're sending you and don't just assume they're sending you as much as everyone else, which is kind of a no-brainer thing, but I don't always think like that. So I have these 2 hanks here that I just finished, and I have been shipping her hanks in 6-packs at a time, and that seems to be working well for us. And I think last time I counted, I had sent her 18 hanks. Now these are roughly 50 to 70 gram hanks of yarn. So I've sent her about 18, and I have estimated I have enough for about 36 more. That would be 2 of these, so 34 more after this. But she's been very patient with me. It takes me about 6 weeks to get 6 hanks out because I have a lot of other responsibilities in my life. And at one point I was working full-time completely, so I really didn't have a lot of time to commit to this commission. So yeah, that is my other something I've learned. Moving on to finished objects, since it has been almost 2 years since I last recorded, I'm not going to show you everything because this video would probably be like 5 hours long. I've collected a couple of my favorites that I could find because there was one I wanted to share that I think I tucked away in storage and I can't really get to it right now. I'm 37 weeks pregnant. We'll talk about that later. But I can't get around in my shed right now, so maybe in a future episode after baby comes, but it's not going to be this one. But yeah, so here are some of the things that I've made in roughly the last 2 years. One of my favorite makes has been the Shift. And this is the Shift by Andrea Mowry. It's a very, very popular pattern. I'm sure you've seen many of these on the internet because it's just gorgeous. It works great for, I think she used the name's escaping me. It's a mill up here in Washington. Well, mill and yarn company. I'm sure you guys know what it is, but it's a mill spun yarn. It's dyed in the wool, and it looks like hand spun, therefore the pattern is great for hand spun. I spun yarn specifically for this pattern, and I'll go ahead and throw it on. And I love the way that it turned out. Now, I think the original pattern, well, I know it was much lighter than how my hand spun ended up turning out. I want to say it's like maybe a DK or sport weight pattern. I don't think it was quite fingering weight, but my cowl ended up much larger than it was supposed to be, and I ran out of yarn because I spun my yarn thicker, which is fine. I mean, look, it's big, it's cozy, it's warm, and it's super easy to wear. Like, I literally just threw it on and I haven't touched it, and I think it looks great. So, and it was super fun to knit because of the slip stitch kind of mosaic striping, not color work, you know. You just want to see how it's going to turn up and turn out next. And yeah, I remember it flew off the needles. I enjoyed every moment of it, and I really enjoy wearing it. It's one of my favorite makes that I've made since I've last recorded. And then I've got show notes, but I'm just going to go off my pile here on my bed. My old craft room that I used to record in is now, my kids used to sleep in the same room together. They have now separated, so Jack's taken over my old craft room, and that is now his bedroom. So I've got this little corner in my bedroom now, and I'm recording off my bed. But anyways, next make. This is a little hat that I knit for Emily. I made up the pattern, and I'm pretty sure it's on my Ravelry page, and I wrote completely what I used and how I knit it with, you know, cast on, how many inches and what my decrease rounds were. But this was one strand of Haiku Simplicity held together with one strand of a handspun single. So this was a really fun single that I spun from a braid of Rock and String Creation, and I want to say the single ended up somewhere between lace weight and light fingering, so you could easily, you know, if you don't spin, you could hold a self-striping lace or light fingering weight yarn, like a zobber ball, along with a Haiku Simplicity is a DK weight, I want to say. So DK weight and a very fine single. And she loves it. I think it will still fit her this year as well. So, and because the Haiku Simplicity is machine washable and dryable, it's great. All that does is kind of felt the single into the more substantial yarn, and so that's been nice. Oh, I also have these socks, and you'll have to forgive me because they're super dirty. I pulled them out to record this morning, and I realized I've been wearing them so much, and I don't wash my socks after every use. You don't have to wash your socks after every use, depending on what you're doing and how long you wore your socks for. Ooh, which reminds me. So I don't know if it was the last episode I recorded or one of the ones prior to that, but I talked about being afraid to wear my socks and shoes because it was going to wear them out faster. And I was corrected, thankfully, that is not true. So it seems true, right, because you think you're getting all this rubbing in your shoes, but you're actually getting less friction in your shoe than you are walking around on various textures in your house. Which, once it was pointed out to me, made sense, but I don't know why I didn't think of it on my own, and so since I said that, I wanted to recorrect it since I've been corrected. If you have been thinking that or thought that because of what I said, now you know. It's actually better to wear your socks in shoes than it is to be walking around your house in your socks. I definitely was walking around my house in these socks, which is why they're dirty on the bottom if you see that. But these are the Celestial socks by Brandi Miller, and they're a fun, obviously sky star inspired sock pattern. So there's this nice little, I'm not sure exactly where that shadow's coming from, so I'll try to avoid it. There are these fun, but my face is there. Okay, let's There's this fun star motif down the front of the sock. It goes the whole length of the front of the sock. And then on the back, there is a garter moon motif. So I really enjoyed that. I knit these out of cattails yarn in, I think it's a Russian blue base, which is the sparkly one, and this is the Bear Lane colorway, which is the Wheel of Time inspired yarn. And the contrasting heel and cuff was a mini skein she sent me back when she first started dyeing, just to kind of test out if I liked the base and what I thought of her colors. And so I don't think this one became a colorway. But yeah, so those are the Celestial socks. Oh, and I also did some personal spinning. So I have been working on that massive dog fur order, which has kept me from doing a lot of spinning because I feel guilty working on a personal spinning project when I have so much commissioned spinning to do. But I just had to squeeze it in. I just needed it, and I decided I need to be able to mix that commission pay for crafting with personal crafting and not feel guilty about it. So what I did was I bought a Paradise Fibers subscription box. Well, October's my favorite time of year, so I wanted the October box. So I ordered back in I ordered in August. So I ordered the end of August thinking I would get September and October. That's what it was. But Paradise Fibers reached out to me and was like, hey, we can still send you August if you want. So I got August too. Oh, but I didn't spin August. This is sure a runaround story, isn't it? I bought August. I haven't spun it yet. It's actually, I can grab it. It's up here. My August box. It had several goodies in it, but the fiber is a bunch of scrap pieces of fiber. So I haven't done anything with it yet. I'm thinking about taking it to the drum carter. I'm not committed to that either. So I set that aside because just a few days later, the September box came, and that is what I spun up. So it wasn't quite Halloween yet, but it's, you know, the beginning of fall. They had a blend that they named Pumpkin Spice. And this is the blend all spun up. It had like 6 different colors of merino in it. How close can I get? Ooh, that looks okay. That shadow. I think I know what's causing it. I'll make sure to fix that for next time. But anyways, this is a merino blend. It was, oh no, it's not just a merino blend, and I actually have it right here. I might as well just read it to you. They sent 6 ounces of pumpkin spice, which was a 65% merino in 6 colors, 25% baby camel top in 2 colors, and 10% viscose tweed. So you'll see that the merino colors were primarily shades of orange and kind of cream and brown. Same with the camel, I think was some natural colored, you know, taupes. And then one of the merino colors, though, was hot pink. Hot pink. I wish that wasn't in there. This would be perfect if that wasn't in there, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It doesn't look horrible. I'm just not a super big fan of pink. I'll knit it for Emily, and that's where that stays. But, so this was a traditional 3-ply that I did with the pumpkin spice blend. I think this is just about 2 ounces. I wanted to see what it spun up like all on its own. The box also came with 2 ounces of their Tutti Fruity blend. It comes in several colorways. I ended up with the Forest Fruits colorway, and this is a carded Corriedale. This guy. I was not a fan of the wool whatsoever. However, it did make a really beautiful skein of yarn. This yarn is absolutely gorgeous. It was multiple colors carded together, and they did a great job with the color pairings. I will say that absolutely. Unfortunately, this Corriedale is very scratchy. I definitely can't wear it next to skin, and I'm not someone who's particularly sensitive. So I think it would be great for a felting project. I don't do a lot of felting, so I don't know what I'll do with it. But it is more ideal for a felting project. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I did do a thing in my Instagram stories about this. The wool, although it was carded, it seemed broken. And you can kind of see that too in, well, we'll try to avoid that shadow. Oh, I don't know if it's going to pick up that halo. There's a bit of a fuzzy halo to the yarn. And I believe, because Corriedale doesn't naturally have a halo, I believe that's due to the fibers being broken. What it very much reminded me of is when I was first learning to dye yarn and fiber, when I felted wool. If you've been watching the podcast for a while, you may remember those older episodes where me and my friend Lindsay did some dyeing experiments in her garage and pulled very boiling hot fiber out of the water, which is a no-no. No-no number 1. And no-no number 2, we pulled it out into her freezing garage. So not only did we agitate boiling hot fiber, we then basically froze it in the air. I felted the crap out of it. And I tried to save it by blending it, I think, into Rolags is what I did. It's so many years ago, I don't remember for sure. But what happened in the process of trying to draft it, you can't. It's felted. So when you go to draft it, instead of pulling the fibers apart, it snaps the fibers apart. They break and become wiry. They are then spinnable, but they are broken. And I think that's what is making this yarn so scratchy, and I think that's what's giving it the halo. And I also believe that's why the staple was like this. I kid you not. I don't think I took any pictures. If I did, I'll insert them or see if I can't find any videos. I think I recorded directly to Instagram, so I don't think those videos are saved. But the staple was like cotton. I could only spin this yarn as a short forward, or not short forward, as a assisted long draw, because I just could, there was not enough drafting space. So yeah, unfortunately, I think the quality of this fiber is not that great, but it does make beautiful yarn. Which brings me to the rest of the box. So this is about 4 ounces. So 2, 2, and 4. It's the 8 ounces of fiber that was in the box. I did 2 singles of the pumpkin spice, and then I did another single where I mixed the pumpkin spice blend. And before I had checked the staple length on the Tutti Frutti, I thought, oh, I don't have a ton of this. It would be fun to have some thick and thin chunks and have almost like a textured yarn. But, again, I spun this first. I found out that short fibered yarns are not necessarily ideal for a thick and thin spin, because what you try to do with the thick and thin is draft it past a reasonable staple length so that it's just grabbing the tips instead of staying in even consistency. So what'll happen is you'll have a thin area, a fat thick area, and then a thin area as you kind of draft past where you normally would. Well, there's not much of an area to draft. And so it was much more difficult to try to spin it thick and thin. There were some areas where I kind of got some semblance of a thick and thin. I mean, I definitely at least got it's textured. And I think this yarn turned out beautifully, and there's not much of that Tutti Frutti carded Corriedale in there, so I still think this could be worn next to skin because it is primarily the pumpkin spice blend, which is super soft, by the way. I don't know if I said that. It's ridiculously soft and definitely worth wearing next to skin, maybe even if you are sensitive. It is very, very soft, very good quality. It's just the Tutti Frutti that I was disappointed in. Not enough not to order another box. The October box I have, and I plan on filming kind of like an, it's not a box, it's a bag. I plan on filming like an unbagging, but until then, I know it's in there because I've seen other people unbag it, but I haven't actually got to touch it and do the feels myself. So I will be recording that later. One incidence of a fiber that I don't care for the quality is not enough for me to fully give up on a subscription box, club, company, whatever. It is ideal. It was spinnable, and it is ideal for felting. And I don't quite know what they're selling it as far as like price per quality, because there is a market for more felt-like fibers. So I don't think that it's necessarily a bad product. It's just a product that I wouldn't purchase on my own, and especially for like spinning. Maybe felting, needle felting. I think this would be great for needle felting because of the way the fibers are already ready to be felted together. I don't know, I'm not super experienced in felt. That might be wrong. Is felting broken fibers better or worse? That's a good question. But yeah, so that is my personal spinning that I did recently. And then this was a big finish. I knit a Weekender sweater by Andrea Mowry, and this I knit using Haiku Kenzie, and this yarn was thinner than what the pattern called for. I think her pattern calls for like an Aran, and this is more of a light worsted weight. So I didn't get gauge, but what I did do was a little trickery, because I really wanted a sweater out of this yarn, and we were doing a knit along where I worked at the time, which was Maker's Mercantile. I wanted to knit along with everybody, and I wanted to use this yarn. So I knit a swatch, and I did the math to adjust what the gauge should be, what my gauge was, and what size in the pattern I needed to knit to get the size that was the recommended positive ease for me for the pattern. I don't remember exactly what the recommended positive ease is, but I do know that it was quite a bit. I want to say it was somewhere like 8 inches, give or take, but don't quote me. So I ended up knitting the 52-inch bust size. Obviously, this is not a 52-inch bust size sweater. So that was my gauge difference to make up for the fact that I used a thinner yarn. I also had to knit more rows because my row gauge was off, which meant that I had to be very careful of the estimated yardage in the pattern. I used more yardage than you would have if you had an Aran weight sweater. But overall, I love the pattern. I love the way it fits. I'm super glad I went with the recommended positive ease. I wasn't sure it would be flattering with my body type, but I do remember after wearing it, I was happy. Things are a little different now. I can still wear it. It's just super, super round. So it's a little awkward, but it does still fit. So those are all my finished objects of other people's patterns. I did finish my Halloweb that I started a couple years ago, back when I did the Halloweb crochet along with Nancy of Schmutzarella Yarns, and I started a second one using her mini skein set. I chose the Demise of Mrs. Peacock, if I'm remembering correctly, because she has the Ghost, which is the lighter shade of the colors, and then the Demise, which is like the darker shade of the colors. So it starts with the light purple up here, and it goes down to an almost black purple at the bottom. And I believe that I paired it with Knox, which is the tonal black colorway. And I remember back when I was crocheting this based off my original pattern, I wasn't going to get to see the full set of mini skeins in the gradient. I'm sorry, it's so hard to show because it's kind of large for my screen space, but I'll peek at you through the back. So I added another section. So the original Halloweb pattern, it has the first black section, the second, and the third. And then I added this fourth section right here. Can you see this one? And I crocheted it and I ripped it and I crocheted it and I ripped it so many times. I finally settled on this version, I wanted that section to look like actual spiders because the pattern is inspired by Halloween and spider webs, which is why it's called Halloweb, but I didn't actually have any spiders in it. So I did my best to add a spider row, but I wasn't super happy with the way that it turned out, so I never did add that section to the final pattern. Maybe I'll revisit it one day, but I don't have any plans for that currently. But I feel like my math was off, and I don't like the way that the edge works with that row. I feel like it pulls and it's kind of tight. I guess on camera right here, right now, it looks fine, so maybe I was just being extra critical of myself, which I tend to do, but yeah, so this little added section isn't available in the pattern, but I did finish it. I do love the extra size. I mean, it can be a full-on shawl now. Excuse me. It's a full-on shawl. It goes all the way past my shoulder blades, and it's very spooky, seasonally appropriate, even though I would wear it year-round anyways. So yeah, I finished that. I didn't mention, but I believe both of these yarns are on her dude base. That might not be true. It might be on Sweet, actually. I'll put a thingy at the bottom like I usually do when I don't remember. And then the only other finished object that I wanted to share was this shawl, which is a shawl that I designed and never wrote and released, which I've found that, you know, over this last 2 years or so, I was doing that a lot. I was designing patterns just for fun, keeping kind of side notes, but not putting any pressure on myself to actually write them up or release them. So I do have all the notes on how I made this, and it is something I could write up and release, but I don't have any motivation to do that currently. But I am happy with the way it turned out. I used cattails yarn, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't know what these colorways are whatsoever. I don't think I put this on Ravelry, which is usually where I go to look up what colorways I used, but I'll link her Etsy shop below, but I'm not even sure she has these colorways in stock anyways, so I don't know that it super matters. I think this pink one was something about strawberry fields. I don't know what this variegated one was at all, and it might have been a one-off. Sometimes she'll send me like one-off skeins that never became colorways, and I think that might have been what happened here. But this was a really fun one that I started, I think, here, and this is the border, so this was not included. I started with the variegated and added the pink stripes, and I went all the way across. And then once I got to that end, then I started crocheting the full length of the shawl and then down the other side, and I turned it into a right triangle the way that it worked out, which is why it is this shape. And it only used 2 hanks of fingering weight yarn. I had quite a few leftovers of one color, but not a ton of the other. So it is one shawl that's large enough you can wear traditional, or you can flip it over and I have hair in my face and wear more of the bandana type style. And when you have these shorter ends, I like to just kind of do a little quick overhand knot to keep them in place underneath the bandana style. So this was another one of my makes that I finished that I enjoyed. So yeah, moving on to works in progress. I forgot I overhand knotted it. I'm here choking myself. So for works in progress, I've mostly been doing diamond painting lately. I think I've mentioned in my previous episodes that for whatever reason when I'm pregnant I lose my motivation to knit. It happens every time, without fail. So I haven't been knitting most of this pregnancy. I've just now started to get my knitting mojo back, but before that happened, I picked up the diamond painting. I showed you I've been working on the Halloween piece, and I've got some other more pieces coming in the mail that I'm excited about. But I have finally picked up my needles again and started 2 projects for the baby. The first one is actually a brand new pattern that just came out this month. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it with the glare, but this pattern is called It's Alive, and it's by Tristan of Dragon Horde Yarns, or Dragon Horde Designs, but she also dyes and sells Dragon Horde yarn. And it's for these festive mini socks, which I just have a feeling are gonna fit a newborn. I may be wrong, but what's the worst case scenario? They don't fit the baby and I have decorative Halloween socks? Oh no. You know, so I started with this one. And this is the ghost motif sock. And I have in my stash a mini skein set from Knitty and Color that was called the Halloween set on her Glam Rock sparkle base. So I don't know if I can get the camera to pick up the sparkle, but this variegated colorway is part of that mini skein set, and I just used white scraps. I think it was Zitron Feinheit scraps for the contrasting color. And then I also knit up the monster, because, you know, his name isn't Frankenstein. He's Frankenstein's monster. But I thought it was super cute. She added these little baubles. Now, because this is a decorative sock, the baubles are shown when you display a sock like this. But if I actually put these on the baby's feet, the baubles will be on the front and back, which is kind of silly, but I think it's still cute. And the lime green you're seeing here is part of that Knitty and Color mini skein set, and so is the black as well, actually, and because the black is showing that sparkle super well. So this whole sock is sparkly. And then I've cast on for the pumpkin motif, but I've had to rip it out like 3 times now. Once you get past the cuff and you get into the body, it becomes 3 color work, which I've done before on some of those border collie hats. The bobble, you know, with the colorwork hats with the sheep, there's an adjusted chart that has border collies in it as well, which some of those rows are 3 color work, and it can be fiddly. It's exceptionally fiddly with the tiny yarn on a tiny circumference. So I found myself struggling not just with the 3-strand color work, but I was also not doing the best job following the chart, and I messed up the chart a couple times. I've been getting the bulk of my knitting done while I sit in on my son's Zooms. So my son is in pre-K this year and my daughter's in kindergarten, and they've got a couple Zooms a day, and I have to sit in on my son's. So on the good days where he doesn't struggle so much to pay attention, I get some good knitting done, but I found not quite this pattern, which is why I ended up casting on another pattern. But so yeah, I do plan on finishing the pumpkin, and then she also has one that's called Pirates, that's like a giant skull with crossbones, and I figured I'd knit my way through all 4 and then go back and knit their pair, because I'm also not opposed to letting the baby wear mismatch Halloween socks. So I kind of look at it like a full mix and match set. So yeah, the other thing that I cast on for the baby is the Little Sisters Romper. And I cast this on out of some 2020 inspired yarn. Oh! See, I didn't put this in my pile of finished objects, but I will share them real quick since it is related to baby knitting. I knit some hats for the little one. I know I have 3. And I just made this pattern up based on what I think will fit when she's born. I generally tend to have small babies, and newborn hats don't fit them, and the best fitting hats are the ones that the hospital gives you with extreme stretch. So I did my best to imitate that. I'll show you this one. I did a 2x2 rib because I find that to generally be, I'll cover my face so it can focus. I generally find that to be one of the stretchiest ribs, so we have a nice stretchy hat. Even though it looks like it's so itty bitty tiny, it's gonna stretch big enough to fit the baby. And this is 2 strands of fingering weight yarn held double. This was some leftover sock yarn that I had in stash out of a pair of socks that I made. I want to say it's Vermont Dye Works, which I don't think she's dyeing anymore. I don't remember the colorway name though. And then I also, if you recognize this color, I just showed you the socks. These were the leftover scraps. Well, and I even have more leftover scraps. This is the leftover scraps of the Bear Lane colorway that I knit my Celestial socks out of. And then I also knit another one, and this is out of a DK weight. Malabrigo, I think Arroyo? No. I'll put it at the bottom because I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure it's a Malabrigo yarn. This was the first one I knit just to kind of test out my idea, and I did just a stockinette stitch at the decrease area. And if I remember correctly, I think I actually cast on at the crown and increased. So I think I cast on in stockinette and increased out to what I thought I would want for a circumference, and then did the 2x2 rib. So I used Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, so this hat does have a far stretchier brim than the other 2 that were cast on at the brim and knit up. So I mean, that would be a benefit from doing the top down knit, but I do like all 3. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, I forgot those were sitting here. No, so the Little Sisters Romper. So this yarn I purchased during 2020. It's a 2020 inspired yarn that I think came out right after the whole COVID thing started. And this, I think it was exclusive only to Stilly Rivers Yarn, which is a local yarn shop up in Washington State. And this is Schmutzerella Yarns on the Spectacular base, which is her sparkle base. And this, again, is a 2020 inspired colorway that she named Dumpster Fire. So I've got just the beginnings here cast on, and this pattern I've really been enjoying. You start with the front, and then you set it aside, you cast on the back, and you knit it a little bit longer. Then you join in the round, and so now I'm just kind of stockinette knitting away. So this has been a much better Zoom project for me. I get, maybe an hour in a day on it, and I love, it's my favorite colors. It's orange, it's got that red undertone, it's got the dark, but the stripes quite aren't black, they're kind of like a green gray. And I really love the way that it's knitting up because it's not really pooling and it's not really striping. It's just a nice overall variegated colorway. So I want to say when Stilly River sold this, I think they already had a sock like partially knit up in the colorway, which is also part of what sold me because you could see just how gorgeous it was when it was knit up. I guess one thing worth noting about this pattern is I could be wrong, but it seems like the designer is English is not her first language. So at first when I was reading the pattern, it's more of a traditional sense of, do these increases while at the same time maintaining garter here, stockinette here, instead of it all being kind of together. I'm used to the designs that are written where it's like place a marker, knit to the marker, increase, purl to the marker, increase, kind of a thing. But I was able to translate it into the way that my brain prefers to work on patterns or is used to the way patterns are written, but that is something worth noting. It hasn't been difficult to follow. It's just one of those things where some people write, do these 2 things at once and they're separate blocks, and you have to read ahead so that you don't have to rip back. And I learned that lesson a while ago, so luckily I was able to be patient, read a little bit ahead, and catch myself before I miss the at the same time do these other things. So yeah, it's going nicely. Other than that, that brings me to Let's Chat. So yeah, it's been like 2 years, and I'm gonna drink some tea because this is a lot of talking. I think I got this mug since I've last recorded. This is one of my favorite mugs. This is one of Creative with Clay's Sharon's mugs, and I just absolutely love it. I'm drinking this Dragon Spice tea from Stash, I think, is who makes it. It's caffeine free. They have a caffeine version and caffeine free. Trying to stay low on my caffeine. I won't lie, I still drink coffee in the morning, but I try to limit the amount, and when I want to refill, I just fill my cup up with more hot water and try to trick myself to thinking I'm drinking more, but I'm not. So let's chat. Oh my gosh, where have I been for the last almost 2 years? So right at the end of the last video that I put out, I was in the beginning processes of getting a divorce. So that kind of just took up all of my free time. Like absolutely all of it. Not to mention, you know, the whole, you know, it really kind of throws you down into a depression. While it is what we both wanted and we are both happier, and as are the children, it definitely was a time where I had to step back and focus on myself and my family, and I for the most part stopped crafting. I did a few things here and there. I tried to finish my commitments. I had committed to some pattern designs to be released, and it was a struggle, but I got those out, and then I just disappeared. I disappeared, but that was almost 2 years ago. Since then, I've met someone new, and I'm 37 weeks pregnant. My goodness. So this little baby, let's see if I can back up and show you. I'm super round. This little baby is due in about 3 weeks. It's a girl. Her due date is November 1st, and I have a feeling she's going to come early. Jack came 2 weeks early. I don't know if she'll come that early, but I don't think we're going to make it to November, which means I get an October baby, which is super exciting. I wish I had the motivation to knit while I'm pregnant, because I would make all the Halloween things, but instead I get to make just a couple Halloween socks and a kind of Halloween colored romper, but that's okay. I have been getting my mojo back, and that is exciting enough. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what happened and where I went. As far as how often I'll be back around, that I don't know. I do know that after having a child, it's a little more difficult to find time to do things like record these videos. So definitely I don't think there will be any consistent recording and upload times for these videos, but what I do know is I do want to continue doing them. I miss making these videos and sharing the things that I'm making, and I'm obviously still designing even if I'm not releasing the designs. So I know it's definitely something I never want to stop doing completely, even if I take an almost 2-year break. But as far as consistency and what I see going forward, I don't know. And I don't have any plans to try to force anything that would be stressful or unreasonable. So just kind of look out here and there. I'll share on my social media accounts when I do put videos up. If you don't like to do like what do they have on YouTube, that bell thing, if you don't like those kind of notifications, if you just follow me on Instagram or Facebook on Mandobug. I think I'm Mandobug now on both, because my Mandobug crafts on Facebook is weird and kind of hijacked. I don't have access to it. I created it back when like having a business page was first a thing, and then they didn't make me the owner of the page, and when you go to it, there is no owner. And if you're not the owner, you can't make changes. So I couldn't control my own page. I sent them several messages like, hey, this is my page, I'm the owner. I never heard back, so I just created an entirely new page that I think is just called Mandobug. So I believe I'm Mandobug on Facebook, Mandobug on Instagram, if you want to keep up with things on there. But yeah. Other than that, that's all I got for you guys. Until next time, happy crafting!